Welcome to We Are Not Here to Tick a Box with David Kane and Debbie Hayes. Episode 6, Silo Mentality.
So already we're at episode 6, and in the last episode I said a word that caused quite a strong reaction. And the word was silos, to which David went, oof, because I think we've all probably experienced the silo mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and show me a business that hasn't got an undercurrent somewhere of silo mentality. But yeah, I think, we talked about the biological organism analogy, the way that all the different organs support the other organs and they can't
Absolutely.
lends itself perfectly to this in terms of silo mentality. And yeah, I've worked in businesses like that, and of course the job of anybody is to try and bring those departments together to look at where the pinch points are and actually come at this not as a department but as a whole, as a business. And I think that the majority of the successes I had, but equally, I think the successes that you hear from very good organisations, there is this togetherness that is formed in those businesses. The ones that operate at the highest level, there is a identity that is the whole business, as opposed to the silo element of it. And it's important that the activities of the day-to-day functions encourage collaboration, that actually break down walls. And again, we talked about gratitude in the last episode, gratitude between departments. I talked about, I hinted at in terms of, maybe making sure that you recognize everybody in a business. And, I've done awards whereby, employee of the month and things like that, where, I'd got the way I did it as the head of business was that I got all the different departmental managers to put to me their nomination. And I used to say to them, you can only give me one nomination. You can't have two people that you think in your department are employee of the month. You've got to decide which one it's going to be. So you're going to pitch this person to me. And then because I got one from every function, I then decided which one in that month had gone above and beyond or had done whatever it needed to be done. And that allowed me to ensure that everybody got a fair crack of the whip, because I could see the contribution that everybody makes. It's very, very difficult perhaps for somebody in the sales department to fully appreciate what somebody in the administration department has done that month over and above. But I could see that, so I could make sure that was there. But equally the others got got mentioned. These were the people that headed up the departments, but this month's employee of the month is. So you still got the recognition within the departments, but then there was this one that sat on top, and you justified why that was. And I think you've always got to justify, if you're going to give recognition, public recognition for somebody, I think it has to be fully transparent as to why. Because the worst thing you can do is give an award or to pat somebody on the back without letting everybody know exactly why.
Yeah, there needs to be that visibility, doesn't there? Because I think it's got to have that integrity to it. Because without that, if it seems just glib or favoritism, because it's not really evidenced, then it can actually be detrimental to give those awards if they're not genuine and sincere. And it can cause even more of a silo effect, can't it, rather than that cohesion. And I think just sort of spinning off that word, the sort of cohesion of things, is that people need to have a sense of belonging, don't they, to the wider business? Because if they only feel that they've got belonging within their own team, this is why there then starts to be that sort of them and us divide, rather than that real sense of I'm just going to go back to the cohesion and actually all being part of one thing. So ultimately people are part of a business. They're not just part of a department, are they?
No. And one of the things that I think is often quite useful in terms of breaking down silos is almost job swapping, or a day in the life where you get somebody from one department to spend a day with a particular department so that they can see the reality of that function, and then they go back to their own department and tell their peers, "This is what I've just seen. We need to appreciate this." What this particular function does for us. This is what I've witnessed, and by actually sharing those experiences, we just gain far more respect for the role that everybody does. But yeah, I mean, for me, again, other little things around silo mentality. I've worked in organisations where, and I'll be honest with you, the sales department got a lot of money thrown at them, incentives and nights out and things like that. And other departments, and you can imagine the resentment that would cause. And it was only when I started to head up sites that I realised, probably over the years, because I was always in the sales function, and that's where I was. And you just go on that little merry, that's what you do. You're in it. You conform to it. This is what we do. You don't really see the bigger picture. But when I actually got into the sites and you start to see the bigger picture, anything that we did at site level always incorporated everybody, whether it be a bowling night, whether it be, meals, whatever it may be. Everybody, we did it whereby, no, we win together, we lose together. That's what we do. And when we win, we go out and we go out collectively together. And I think that's important because that brings teams together. I think there's a lot of resentment if one arm of the business is being being given incentives, and the other side isn't. Because actually, when you think about it, I mean, obviously my background was automotive. So yeah, if a sales team is just going to produce the best salesman, well, who prepared those cars? The cars weren't prepared. We couldn't sell them. Who did the administration for those cars? If the administration wasn't done on time, we couldn't deliver them. And it just goes on, it goes on, and it goes on. So these incentives for me, they have to be bigger. And I think by my latter stages, I'd even probably changed a few hearts and minds in terms of I saw departmental managers inviting, even though the incentive from outside of the four walls had been put on and paid into the business by another part of the business. The managers were starting to go, well, we're going to invite sales to this, or we're going to invite service to this, which had never happened before. But the culture was changing. We understood that you cannot do your job if all of this is not happening. And it's about, yes, you've got a job to perform, and you know what, there's a degree of selfishness in every individual. We're imperfect. Human beings are imperfect. There's always going to be that within us. That's just life. But I saw a big culture shift over the years because we started to appreciate everybody's role within the business.
And I think that sort of scenario helps you to look at, yes, in each situation, it is important to look at your own part in something, but also then looking at things from the other side of the fence, so to speak, isn't it? And to say, well, how does this look from the other person's perspective? So even if it's not viable to maybe spend a whole day with somebody in another department, can you even just spend a few moments to reflect on stepping into that person's shoes and looking at the situation from their perspective? Oftentimes in doing that, it can really start to break down those walls, because we see the whole picture then, don't we? We're not just looking at it from our own perspective. So as much as it's important to be self-reflective, we also need to look at the situation in a reflective way, don't we? And like, where is the whole team? And therefore, what is my part in this? How can I improve the situation for them as well? How can this, get better for everybody? And then that sense of belonging to the business starts to grow, because you're not just looking at it from a purely personal perspective or a team perspective, but you're starting to look at how can this get better from an organizational perspective. And when you look at it through the lens of those three layers, actually it's you that probably gets the most growth in some ways, but the growth of yourself then has that ripple effect, doesn't it, in terms of you've personally grown, the team's grown, but also the business has grown because you've been able to grow yourself and step into those other perspectives, so it can really start to have that ripple effect out into the greater business.
Yeah. And the thing is as well is that people need to look at it from the point of view of, look, the customer doesn't see a department, they see a business. We don't, I mean, at its greatest level, yes, customers will have relationships with a representative of a business. Of course they will, at level. But deep down, their transaction is with the name above the door. That's what they see. So everybody who is associated with that, we're all associated with that brand. We have to be collectively responsible for that brand. And it's about seeing what each department contributes to the success and the efficiency of that business. It's vitally important. And unfortunately, it's a challenge because, like, I go back again to there is this bit of self-preservation. There's a lot of conflict in business, and that's what creates the silo, because again, it's this innate, I don't know, it goes back to that LinkedIn post that I mentioned in episode 5, where ours is the best department. No, it ain't. It's the fight and flight bit. That's what it is. We've got to fight. We've got no, you don't need to do that. Your strength of character, your quality is going to be far greater if you're inclusive than if you put yourself on a pedestal, and the reason that things aren't working at the moment is because of that department or that person. And we talked about self-reflection back in episode 4. Self-reflect. No, if in crisis, if things are going wrong, the best thing that people can do first of all is self-reflect, then reflect within their own department, and then reflect in terms of the wider environment. For me, it's 3 tiers. Everybody has to look inward. Then we've got to look at our unit, and then we've got to look at, perfect examples of this at the moment. Sorry to talk football. Manchester United, great example. Got beat 5-0 by Liverpool, catastrophe a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. First of all, the players have got to look at themselves. Each individual player, coach, manager has to look at themselves. Am I giving my all? Am I aware of my impact? Am I contributing the way I should be contributing? Only when you have judged yourself can you then go on to reflect, well, what about the team? So that 11 that go out on the park or whatever it may be. And then, of course, around that team is the infrastructure, the brand, the club, the transfers, all of these type of things. But it's got to start with the individual and then move at ripple effects, exactly what you spoke about. Starts with me. Now I can start to move, well, what about the team? What can I give? What can I do to help others? To help me, to help the business? What can the business do to help the team, to help me? And it starts to ripple through and come. It's almost like a tide, isn't it? It's almost like the sea. I'm going to start, if I'm the beach, or if I'm the sea, whichever one it's going to be, whichever way you're going to go, I'm going to go in, but I'm going to start from me. And I'm going to go out, and whatever goes out will come back, but it will come back far greater. It will do.
And to almost tie all those points up as well, in my own experience of things, is if you can value yourself, there's no need to criticize other people, because it's going to be far greater, far easier for you to see the value in other people.
Yep.
So if we're looking to criticize other people, the chances are that there's quite a lot of self-criticism going on, and it's actually a defense mechanism to criticize the other people. So
does this resonate with people? That's the question, isn't it? What we're saying now, are you actually seeing this today in your lives, in your businesses? Are you actually, when you actually take a fresh look at it, have we got a department that is functioning well and one that's functioning poorly? And my question would be, so what is the department that is functioning well doing to support the one that at the moment is in some sort of crisis or trauma? Because actually they have a responsibility to help that department, or are they just basking in the glory of their greatness and actually almost being comforted by the fact that the attention is not on them? And again, I go back to this collective responsibility. Or
just taking the glory and being a little bit self-righteous, rather than, if they truly valued that and valued the organization, if they were able to, we're going to almost go back to where we were in the last episode, show that gratitude, show the value for the other team, how much more would that bring them together?
Absolutely.
There wouldn't be need for silos at that point, because there would be that real sincerity of appreciation. So
take a fresh eyes view of your business. Can you see silos? Can you see some sort of disruptive patterns that are emerging in your team? And do you need help in reversing them? Question. If you do, as always, we will be delighted to take our fresh eyes into that business and to help in any way that we could. And that, I think, probably brings episode 6 to a close.
It does.
We will be back in episode 7. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Join us again next week for episode 7 of the We Are Not Here to Tick a Box podcast.